Good morning, everyone. Please rise and join James Simpson, member of the Elliott School's class of 2010, in the singing of the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Parents and other family members, faculty and friends, to the Elliott School's celebration of student achievement. This is a momentous occasion when we come together to recognize the accomplishments of our undergraduates and our graduate students. It marks a major transition in your lives when you reflect on what you have achieved and the next steps into your future. During the time that you have been with us, you have witnessed continuing changes at the Elliott School. We have added many new and excellent faculty members. We continue to strengthen our curriculum and our student services. We have established new research centers and institutes to respond to world challenges. You also have changed during your student years in ways that you may only realize as you move on to careers or further study. You have acquired learning inside and outside the classroom, here in Washington and abroad. You have also helped to enhance the quality and reputation of the Elliott School by the outstanding academic qualifications that you brought to us as new students and by your many remarkable achievements. You are an important part of the school's continuously rising trajectory. Thank you for all that you have done and for what you will continue to do to bring honor to the school as you move on through life. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you another key player in the school's upward movement, Dean Michael E. Brown. Wait a minute. I have to say a few things about him. Michael Brown became Dean of GW's Elliott School of International Affairs in August 2005. Before that, he has held senior positions at Georgetown University, Harvard's Kennedy School of Government, and at the International Institute for Strategic Studies in London. For 12 years, he served as a co-editor of the journal International Security. Dean Brown received his PhD from Cornell University. He is the author of an award-winning book on the U.S. Strategic Bomber Program and editor or co-editor of 21 books, most recently, Going Nuclear, Nuclear Proliferation and International Security in the 21st Century. I just want to go off script for a little minute. I'm not going to do a Joe Biden on you, but I wanted to say a little something about my dean that you may not know about, but I want you to know about. First, two things. He has a wonderful sense of humor. It makes working with him in the Dean's Suite a real joy. Secondly, and I think this is okay to say in public, he is an ardent and loyal fan of Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. Let me introduce to you my boss, Dean Michael E. Brown.
Thank you, Dean Miller. I'm delighted to welcome all of you to the graduation celebration of the George Washington University's Elliott School of International Affairs. This is one of the milestones in the school's academic year, and it is, of course, one of the milestones in the lives of our students and their families. Graduating from the Elliott School is a true accomplishment. It isn't something that just happens on its own. To our graduates, you are here today because you have made a serious commitment to the study of international affairs, because you have worked long and hard, and because you have achieved a new level of expertise in your chosen fields. On behalf of the faculty of the Elliott School of International Affairs, I congratulate you. This is also an important day for the families and friends of our graduates, people who have done so much to make this day possible. To the parents of our graduates and all of the family members and friends who are with us today, congratulations to you too, and thank you for all you have done. Speaking of parents, I'm also happy to welcome my parents to this Elliott School celebration. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. You always told me to do my homework, and you were right. Over these past few years in particular, there has been no better place and no more exciting place to study global issues than GW's Elliott School of International Affairs. To be here at this school at this time has been extraordinary, a wonderful opportunity for all of us. As the Dean of the Elliott School, I'm often asked what makes the Elliott School so special. Our location is unique, of course. We have the good fortune to study international affairs in Washington, D.C., one of the world's great international cities. And we're located in the heart of Washington, D.C., in the midst of U.S. policymakers, the international diplomatic community, and some of the world's most important international organizations. In fact, if you draw a line from the White House to the State Department and another line from the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank to the Federal Reserve, those two lines literally intersect at the Elliott School. Our location is unique in all the world, and it enriches everything we do. There is more to our story. The Elliott School is special not just because of where we are, but because of who we are. The Elliott School isn't just a place on the map, although we're nicely situated. The Elliott School isn't just a building, although our building is extremely cool. The Elliott School is fundamentally a community of people, scholars and students and staff who are exceptionally dedicated to the study of global issues and to making our world a better place. The results are remarkable. In addition to our undergraduate and graduate programs, which make us the largest school of international affairs in the country, the Elliott School also sponsors more than 250 special events every year. Lectures, panel discussions, conferences, bringing renowned scholars, policymakers, diplomats, business executives, journalists, and other experts to the GW campus to interact with students and faculty and to advance understanding of critical contemporary challenges. This past academic year, for example, let me just give you a couple of the highlights. In September, we hosted a major conference on climate change. In October, Hillary Clinton and Robert Gates stopped by to talk about U.S. foreign policy and U.S. national security. In October, we also organized a panel discussion on nuclear arms control in conjunction with the launch of our new Institute for Security and Conflict Studies. In November, our Distinguished Women in International Affairs series sponsored Helene Gayle, the president of CARE, a leading humanitarian organization fighting global poverty. The Elliott School also sponsored an annual conference on U.S.-China relations that we call G2 at GW. In December, Awista Ayub, the founder of an organization that supports and empowers girls through sports programs, spoke on the challenges and opportunities facing girls in Afghanistan. In January, we organized the first of several events on the earthquake and humanitarian crisis in Haiti. In February, we hosted 2 Assistant Secretaries of State because Assistant Secretaries of State are some of our favorite people. In March, we organized events in our Ambassadors Forum series, the Middle East Policy Forum and the Security Policy Forum, and in April, we sponsored a high-level panel in our new Global Women's Forum, a series of events focused on challenges facing women and girls around the world. Now, if you're about to graduate and you were in class all the time last year, and I know you were in class all the time, you may have missed some of these events. That's why we recorded them. And all of these events, the ones I just mentioned and many others, and we have posted them on our website under the Elliott School's new web video initiative, which we launched this past fall. So far, we have more than 40 of our greatest hits on our website, and we will do more next year. Our web video initiative is a way for us to share our academic resources with alumni and those of you who are about to become alumni, even if you move away from Foggy Bottom. So whether you end up in New York or New Delhi, in Omaha or Ouagadougou, you can continue to benefit from your Elliott School connection. Now, over the course of this graduation weekend, our graduating students will receive a lot of advice. I get to go first. I have 3 pieces of advice for our graduates. My first piece of advice is show up. If you want to get ahead in this world, or if you want to make a difference in this world, you have to be there when it counts. Let me give you an example. Earlier this year, I was invited to a meeting. I showed up. Some people did not show up. Decisions were made. Decisions are made by the people who show up. This is true in day-to-day activities, and it is true in life more generally. If you're graduating from the Elliott School, you've already done a great job of showing up in class and in your other endeavors. Keep at it. My second piece of advice is stand up. Stand up not just for yourselves, but for people who can't stand up and speak up for themselves. Stand up for the common good. Stand up for what is right. Speak truth to power. If you're graduating from the Elliott School, you have already demonstrated that you care about other people and important issues around the world, some of the most important issues facing humanity. Keep at it. In addition to showing up and standing up, my third and final piece of advice is this. Live it up. Enjoy your life. Enjoy your partners and spouses, your families and friends, and enjoy your career. In addition to changing the world, have some fun along the way. In 1975, when I was graduating from college, I had a couple of very different options for graduate school, which would have led to very different career paths. I asked my parents for advice. They told me that I should choose something that I would enjoy doing in life. That's what I did, and it was great advice. For the past 35 years, I've been studying and working in the field of international affairs. I believe it's important, I know it's interesting, and for me, it certainly has been fun. So from my parents to me, and from me to you, from one generation to another, I'd like to give you the same advice. If you can find a way to combine what you do and what you enjoy, you will be on a good path in life. I know that the job market is more challenging today than it has been in the past, but it will get better, and you will have career choices. Find a path that you enjoy, something that you value, live it up, and keep at it. Although the world faces many problems, there are 2 things that make me optimistic about the future. Great schools like this and great students like you. Here at the Elliott School, we like to say that we are educating the next generation of international leaders. We like to say it because it's true. You're next. You're up. Good luck. It is now my pleasure to introduce this year's student speaker, Gw Tolina. Gw is a candidate for a Master in International Policy and Practice. He was born and raised in Ethiopia and is the first member of his family to attend college. After completing his undergraduate degree in economics at Mekelle University in Ethiopia, Eyob joined the Ethiopian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. In 2007, he came to Washington, D.C. on a diplomatic assignment. Eyob wants to continue to work on development and economic issues, and he plans to run for office in Ethiopia. Please join me in welcoming the Elliott School student speaker, Eyob Tolina.
Thank you, Dean Brown. It's really a great honor to be here. When applying for admission, we all heard how the Elliott School's location at the heart of the nation's capital is one of its great assets. In full honesty, Dean Brown, you mentioned that right now, I never thought back then that this was nothing more than a marketing gimmick. As I stand here before you today, surrounded by the White House and the World Bank, the Capitol and the Washington Monument looming large nearby, I not only laugh at my ignorance back then, but marvel at the profundity of our experience here. I would like to talk to you about this experience today, but let me start by congratulating this extraordinary class, the brightest of all, my class, the class of 2010. Allow me also to thank all that have made this possible. Family, friends, faculty, and staff, we're so grateful for all you've done. Thank you so much. As each one of us would soon realize, college years are arguably the best years of one's life. Everything at campus, not only the Thursday night out, but even the endless assignments and group works that admittedly were frustrating at times, would soon be cherished in memory as years pass by. Many of us would tell our kids in a few years down the road, here is where I met my best friend ever. Well, those lucky enough might even say, here is where I met your mom or your dad, as the case might be. At the risk of sounding alarming about the world out there, it's probably true that we've made more friends over the last 2 to 4 years here at the school than we are about to make in the rest of our lifetime. But our experience here is more than making friends. It's also more than the inspiring lectures and the heated classroom debates about the political economy of our world. This experience is also beyond the day-to-day interaction with the incredibly diverse student body. As you would probably agree with me, our collective experience here is by far greater than the sum of all its parts. I relish the most how this experience has significantly changed our worldview. Each one of us came here with our own baggage, whatever that might have been. But as we celebrate our graduation here today, our heart is filled with a common conviction to make this world a better place. And if our down payment in the form of more than 100,000 hours of community service is any indication, making our world a better place is no longer a wishful dream of a fresh graduate. I hope you all will realize what this experience means for someone like me who comes from one of the poorest countries in Africa. As I witnessed firsthand how our Facebook and Twitter pages have shaken with the same magnitude of the earthquake that ravaged Haiti, and as I saw students from all walks of life chilling for Chile at the Marvin Center, my belief in the greatness of humankind is vindicated. The take-home message for me is if we all want to see this world to be a better place, there is no reason why it shouldn't be so. Economic prosperity and good governance should no longer be a luxury that very few enjoy. I'm not saying this just because of the recent success stories in countries like China and India, but also because of the optimism I read in the eyes of millions of Africans. In my own country, Ethiopia, the double-digit growth over the last 7 years has stirred the confidence of fellow Ethiopians that they too can enjoy the freedom that comes with economic development and be equal partners with their fellow human beings in the rest of the world. As the greatest son of Africa, Nelson Mandela once said, "We all are meant to shine as children do." It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. Now, I know this sounds a bit too optimistic given the current state of world affairs. But with due respect to our awesome faculty, my conviction comes not just from the theories we discuss in the classroom, but also from the tone of our passionate debates about what is possible. This shared belief and positive attitude is what left a lasting impression on me. This is exactly what I told my dad, who flew all the way from Ethiopia to take part in this excitement. I can sense the kind of pride that fills his heart as he watched me graduate from one of the finest schools in the world. I may be the first in the family to go to college, but I hope in the better world we strive to create, his grandchildren would take such an opportunity for granted. As he speaks about the greatness of this nation upon his return home, I hope he also speaks loudly about the strength of the bond that ties us all together. My fellow graduates, as there is no Berlin Wall that has just fallen or a millennium that has just begun, the year 2010 might seem at the surface another normal year with no specific historic significance. For me, the fact that this class demonstrates such a great sense of optimism, despite experiencing firsthand the worst economic recession since the Great Depression, is nothing less than historic. This tells me that not only can we correct our respective politics and confront global challenge from climate change to terrorism head-on, but also we can shatter the walls of poverty that divide our world with our ear-piercing chants of yes, we can. And that, my friends, makes the fall of the Berlin Wall a footnote in human history. Thank you very much for this honor, and once again, congratulations.
Thank you, Eob, for those powerful and hopeful remarks. The students of the Elliott School have tremendous academic abilities. We would now like to recognize several students for their extraordinary achievements. I ask the following award recipients to proceed to the stage as I call their names. In each graduating class, one student stands out for his or her academic accomplishments. In recognition of this, the Elliott School honors one undergraduate student as the class's Distinguished Scholar. This year's Distinguished Scholar is Morgan Kaplan. Morgan is a candidate for a BA in International Affairs with a concentration in conflict and security. His senior thesis examined the use of deterrence as a counterterrorism strategy. He's also demonstrated an expertise in another field by co-authoring an article, Turning Carrots into Carrot Cake, that addresses the failures of alternative development in the Andes region. Morgan is interned at the Council on Foreign Relations and at the White House. He will continue his studies this fall at the University of Chicago, where he will pursue a PhD in political science, focusing on international security. Morgan received his award at a ceremony a few weeks ago, but we want to recognize him again today. Morgan. The Naomi Polling Warbass Award recognizes an outstanding female graduate student in the Elliott School who is studying Russian or Eastern European affairs. This year's recipient of the Naomi Polling Warbass Award is Renee LaRiviere. Renee is a candidate for a Master of Arts degree in International Affairs with a regional focus on Europe and Eurasia. She has held internships with the U.S. embassies in Russia and Kazakhstan and in the State Department's Bureau of Intelligence and Research. Renee aims to join the Foreign Service. Renee? The Wilbur J. Carr Prize is awarded to undergraduate and graduate students who have demonstrated outstanding ability in the study of international affairs while displaying the qualities necessary to be a good citizen and dedicated public servant. This year's undergraduate recipient is Amanda James. Amanda is a candidate for a BA in International Affairs with concentrations in Asia and Chinese language and literature. Amanda has studied in Beijing, and she has recently been actively involved with We Are Family Senior Outreach. Amanda has completed the U.S. Air Force ROTC program, serving as the Cadet Wing Commander. She was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the Air Force earlier this week, and she was awarded 2 honors, the Distinguished Graduate Award, which recognizes members of the top 10% of a commissioning class, and the Major Gene Home Leadership Excellence Award, which recognizes the top cadet in a region based on academic performance as well as leadership positions held. Amanda? This year's graduate recipient of the Wilbur J. Carr Prize is Jared Reen. Jared is a candidate for a Master of Arts degree in Middle East Studies with a concentration in Security Policy Studies. He has served as an Arabic interpreter with U.S. Special Forces in Iraq and currently works for the Department of Defense. At GW, Jared was a research assistant to Professor Mark Lynch, and he also assisted Professor Edward Ghanim in the Dialogue on Iraqi Minorities Community Project. He has been active in the Student Veterans Organization as well. After graduation, Jared will continue to work for the Department of Defense, and he plans to redeploy to the Middle East in the near future. Jared. Congratulations. The John Henry Cowles Memorial Award goes to the undergraduate or graduate student who combines overall scholastic achievement with leadership potential. This year's recipient of the John Henry Cowles Award is Mckenzie Drutowski. Mckenzie is a candidate for a BA degree in International Affairs with concentrations in Europe and Eurasia, as well as in Asian Studies. She's spent a semester studying the European Union and Germany and a semester studying Tibetan Buddhism in India and Nepal. Mckenzie participated in the Elliott School's undergraduate scholar program, researching EU immigration policy. In July, Mckenzie will begin serving as a youth and community education volunteer with the Peace Corps in Niger. Mckenzie. The GW Alumni Association awards an annual prize to an outstanding student in each school of the university. The award honors future alumni who have shown exceptional commitment to GW. Presenting the award on behalf of the GW Alumni Association is Elliott School alumnus Larry Murphy, who received his MA in International Affairs in 1980. This year's recipient of the GW Alumni Association Prize is Harry Wodehouse. Harry is a candidate for a BA degree in International Affairs with concentrations in African Studies and Development and minors in French Language and Literature, as well as Africana Studies. While in the GW Honors Program, Harry wrote a thesis on national identity and languages used in the education system in Mauritius. Harry is the Executive Managing Director of GW's Learning Enterprises, a student-run nonprofit organization, and he spent the past 2 summers in Mauritius. Harry will be applying for a Fulbright research grant, and he hopes to continue his research in Mauritius. Harry, congratulations. Please join me in congratulating these outstanding Elliott School students. It is now my privilege to introduce this year's commencement speaker, one of the Elliott School's most distinguished graduates, the Honorable Rose Gottemiller. Ms. Gottemiller is Assistant Secretary of State for Verification, Compliance, and Implementation. She was the Chief U.S. Negotiator for the Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty with Russia that was signed just a few weeks ago. Over the course of her career, Ms. Gottemiller has held important positions both in government and in the broader national security research community. In government, she has served in the Department of Energy as Deputy Undersecretary for Defense, Nuclear Nonproliferation, and as Assistant Secretary for Nonproliferation and National Security. She's also served on the staff of the National Security Council in the White House as Director for Russia, Ukraine, and Eurasia Affairs, with responsibility for denuclearization in Ukraine, Kazakhstan, and Belarus. In addition to her government service, Ms. Gottemiller has been a senior associate at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace in its Russia and Eurasia program, director of Carnegie's Moscow Center, deputy director of the prestigious International Institute for Strategic Studies in London, and a social scientist at the RAND Corporation. Ms. Gottemiller graduated from the George Washington University with a Master of Arts in Science, Technology, and Public Policy. Ms. Gottemiller is widely and correctly recognized as one of the country's leading experts on nuclear weapons, nuclear arms control, U.S.-Russia relations, and national and international security more generally. I've known Ms. Gottemiller for more than 20 years, and I can also add that she is a great and gracious colleague. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my privilege and personal pleasure to welcome the Elliott School's 2010 commencement speaker, the Honorable Rose Gottemiller.
Wow, I feel like I'm at a rock concert. There is so much energy in this room, and I just want to tell you what a thrill it is for me to be here as an alumna of the Elliott School. I received my master's degree in 1981, seems like a long time ago, but looking at all the students here, both the graduate students and the undergraduates, it's but a moment ago, and I, from the bottom of my heart, wish you all the best in your forward motion from this day. But let me come back to that in a minute. First, let me thank Dean Brown, good friend Mike Brown, members of the faculty and administration, family members, graduates, and friends for the honor of being here and speaking with you today. My connections to this university run deep, you know, especially in connection to this year's commencement activities. My sister, Meg Gottemiller, just received her doctorate from the Graduate School of Education and Human Development, my older sister, I might add. So my first message for you today is that education is definitely for life. The second point is that it's a special treat for me that at this ceremony, my cousin, Andy Barton, is in today's graduating class, and she's here today. She's an Elliott School graduate. Of course, her proud parents, Brett and Molly, are here too, and I'm going to embarrass Andy further by saying to her parents, for the record, we are not trying to steal your daughter away from California, but the East Coast and Washington, D.C. are pretty cool places to live too. And I just got a special message in from the White House this morning that we have a graduate in the audience who works for Gary Seymour in the National Security Council. So I wanted to give a shout out also to Jeff Gelman and let you know your boss knows where you are this morning. It's really a thrill for me to be here, as I said a few moments ago. I attended the Elliott School in the late 70s and early 80s, and I came to school at night. I was spending my days working at the RAND Corporation. This was challenging and did not leave much time for doing anything other than work and school, something that is surely familiar to many of you in this audience today. What drew me to the George Washington University and the Elliott School was the interdisciplinary approach. It allowed me to pursue my two very intense interests, science and technology policy, and what we used to call Soviet studies. I could do both at GW and be in the heart of the nation's capital, where I had a serious case of Potomac fever. I still have a serious case of Potomac fever. I suspect most, if not all of you, have worked while attending school or have taken advantage of internships or fellowships that flourish throughout this town, from Foggy Bottom up to Capitol Hill. I work just a few blocks away from here at the State Department, where I am the Assistant Secretary for Verification, Compliance, and Implementation. Before you get lost in that acronym, though, I'll tell you exactly what that is. I'm responsible for assuring that verification requirements are really integrated deeply in all of our development, negotiation, and implementation of arms control policy. So I am the senior official in the U.S. government in the Department of State responsible for arms control matters. So you can see how my science and technology policy and Soviet studies specialties here at GW help me to move forward in my life. But in this day and age, you might consider me something of a relic. I am a Russian speaker. I'm the government's chief arms control negotiator. And I am both these things 20 years after the fall of the Berlin Wall, when Iraq, Afghanistan, and terrorism are our most pressing and immediate issues to deal with. The reality is that since 1991, arms control has not gotten the attention from the government or from the public that it once did. But issues in Washington have a way of sliding off the agenda and then coming back on again. Last year, President Obama delivered what I think is a landmark speech, and he has given quite a few. He called on us to achieve the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons. The President outlined a number of concrete steps that we would need to take if we are ever to eliminate these terrible weapons. One step, the step that I was charged with, was to negotiate a new arms treaty with Russia, the New START Treaty. And I spent most of 2009 and the first part of 2010 in Geneva, Switzerland, doing just that. The agreement is very important because the United States and Russia still control more than 90% of the world's nuclear arsenal, and it is a critical step in the path toward a world without nuclear weapons. I'll have more to say about that in a moment. When New START is fully implemented, it will result in the lowest number of deployed nuclear warheads since the 1950s, the first full decade of the nuclear age, and limits on deployed and non-deployed ballistic missiles and bombers that can carry nuclear weapons will be well below the limits set in other treaties between our two countries. Now let me tell you a little bit about negotiating this treaty. Our work began following a meeting in London in April 2009, during which President Obama and President Medvedev agreed to launch the negotiations. We had to do some fast work because the START treaty was going out of force in December of last year. So we had to get moving. So we embarked on a new and uncharted path, but one that was necessary for our two countries and the world community to undertake, recognizing that it was important to replace the START treaty. The dramatic changes that took place over the last 20 years made the whole experience somewhat different, however. I would say that what was primarily different about our negotiations when compared to arms control negotiations of the past was the spirit in which they took place. As they began, Secretary Clinton had only just agreed with her Russian counterpart, Sergei Lavrov, to hit the reset button. Remember that famous reset button? Moving us out of a difficult phase in the wake of the Russia-Georgia war. And there had been some very tense moments in U.S.-Russian relations otherwise. Our two delegations launched into the negotiations committed to conducting them in an atmosphere of mutual respect, with a premium on keeping the tone businesslike and productive, even when we did not agree. My counterpart on the Russian delegation, Ambassador Anatoly Antonov, always used to say, business is business. Business есть business. What he meant was that we needed to keep the tone of the discussion businesslike even when we were butting heads, and believe me, we butted heads a lot. Over the course of the year-long negotiation, we got to know our counterparts, and we jointly followed events that took place while we were in Geneva. Of course, we watched the Olympics in Vancouver. We said congratulations when the Russians took gold in biathlon and cross-country skiing, and they said pozdravляю when we won gold medals in skiing and speed skating. Hockey, though, hockey remained off the agenda. We didn't want to talk about that. It was too sensitive a topic. This was very funny, when Washington was paralyzed by record snowfalls in February, causing our government to shut down for a week, the Russians were full of jokes about how the Americans did not know how to deal with snow. They were giving us advice on snow removal. But we were able to return the favor a few weeks later when Moscow was hit by a record snowfall and was paralyzed for a couple of days. But there were sad moments also. We offered our heartfelt condolences to members of the Russian delegation when the Moscow subway was bombed in late March, a tragic event that brought us closer together in the recognition that terrorism is the key national security threat that affects our country, Russia, and the international community. We celebrated each other's holidays, including our Veterans Day and their Defenders Day, and honored the many military members of both our delegations. Some of what we shared truly helped the negotiations move forward. Members of both delegations brought valuable experience to the negotiating table because we had a lot of people who had worked as inspectors through the implementation of the START Treaty, 15 years of working together. They'd been to the bomber bases, they'd been to the ICBM bases, they'd been to the weapons storage facilities. They truly understood what it was to deploy nuclear weapons in the other country. And so that was very valuable that we had that kind of experience on the team. But we also spoke each other's languages. I'm very proud to say that there were probably as many Russian speakers on the US delegation as there were English speakers on the Russian delegation, and that is a change from the past. Again, I give a lot of credit to our inspectors and what they learned in dealing with the Russian strategic rocket forces in the previous 15-year period. But most heartening to me in terms of the future of our nuclear arms reduction diplomacy was the number of young people who worked on both delegations. While most of the senior negotiators were like me, what I call Sputnik babies, we took up an interest in Soviet studies after Sputnik was launched in the late 50s, and then as the space race went forward through the 1960s between the Soviet Union and the United States. But there were many, many members of our delegation who had been born about the same time the wall fell in Berlin. And so I'm very happy to see here today other representatives of that new generation coming forward and ready, I'm sure, with your own bright ideas about how to proceed. I'm happy to tell you that yesterday, the treaty and its associated documents were delivered by the White House to the United States Senate. I believe that there is a very compelling case for this new arms control treaty, and I expect the Senate to provide its advice and consent for ratification. You heard it first here. I'm expecting this treaty to be ratified. Thanks. It's going to take some hard work, though. we'll have lots of questions to answer. We'll have lots of work to do, but I do think it's a very good treaty, and we'll have a good case to make to our Senate. Our presidents, I think, described it best after signing the treaty last month in Prague. President Obama called the treaty an important milestone for nuclear security and nonproliferation and for U.S.-Russian relations, and President Medvedev called it a win-win situation. That's the first time, by the way, I'd heard a Russian leader call anything a win-win situation, so that was pretty impressive. Now let me turn for a moment again to the President's denuclearization agenda. Almost a year to the day before President Obama and Medvedev signed the New START Treaty, President Obama gave another speech in Prague in which he set forth a specific agenda to address the challenges posed by the risks of proliferation of nuclear weapons. He undertook to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons, no matter how hard it was or how long it might take. President Obama amplified these remarks last month in Prague when he said, "This is a long-term goal, one that may not even be achieved in my lifetime, but I believe then, as I do now, that the pursuit of that goal will move us further beyond the Cold War, strengthen the global nonproliferation regime, and make the United States and the world a safer and more secure place." As long as nuclear weapons exist, the President has affirmed that the United States will maintain a safe, secure, and effective arsenal to deter any adversary and guarantee the defense of our allies. With the New START Treaty, we are setting the stage for further arms reductions. As we say in the preamble to the treaty, we see it as providing new impetus to the step-by-step process of reducing and limiting nuclear arms. This agenda is ambitious and will require enormous efforts, but it is work in which we must engage. We do not have to live in a world where there is even one more nuclear-armed country or the possibility of terrorists getting their hands on nuclear weapons. But believe it or not, I did not come here today to recruit you as the next arms control negotiators, although in my biased opinion, it is one of the most interesting fields of international relations today, so actually I would welcome some of you being interested. I really just wanted to share my experience in public service as one example of one career. The nature of public service has changed and no longer need only be pursued through jobs in government. There are innumerable ways to engage in public service, conduct international relations, and contribute to national and global security, both inside and outside of government. In fact, today's challenges are best addressed when governments, international organizations, non-governmental organizations, advocacy groups, think tanks, the private sectors, and others join together in partnership and work together to solve today's pressing issues. And who knows what the challenges of tomorrow may be. I wanted to end on that note, in fact. When I started studying Russian in high school, the thought that the Berlin Wall would someday be torn down, the Soviet Union would break apart, and the former Warsaw Pact countries would become democratic countries and members of the NATO alliance was simply unfathomable. The end of the Cold War should be a lesson to all of us that unfathomable, indeed, truly historic change for the better is possible, and that all of us should have set our sights high and become agents of change. Your generation may wonder if there will ever be a lasting peace in the Middle East, or whether global warming can be averted, or whether nuclear weapons can, indeed, be eliminated from the face of the earth. These and 1,000 other things are possible if you believe in yourself and in the endless possibilities of human endeavor. My wish for you is that someday you will speak of the unfathomable things that you witnessed in your lives and the part you played in turning a page of history. I would like to end by offering my heartfelt congratulations to each and every one of you. And also, I wanted to offer my heartfelt congratulations and appreciation to all your friends, family, parents, grandparents, brothers and sisters, everyone in this room. You are at the beginning of your careers, and the Elliott School has prepared you well. That I can say from my own experience. I wish you all the best, and again, my heartfelt congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Gw, for your insight and inspiration and for your tremendous service to the United States and the world. Thank you. Now it is time to individually recognize our graduates. On Sunday at the GW Commencement ceremony, Professor Bruce Dixon will be awarded the university's Trachtenberg Prize for Teaching. In recognition of his many contributions to GW and in particular to the education of GW students, we have asked Professor Dixon to deliver the charge to our Elliott School graduates today. Professor Dixon joined the GW faculty in 1993, and he is now a professor of political science and international affairs. He is an exceptionally dedicated and accomplished teacher at every level, undergraduate, master's, and doctoral. He is known for being both academically rigorous and engaging, and for conveying his tremendous enthusiasm for the study of comparative politics and international affairs. One student wrote that Professor Dixon stood out, and I quote, "for challenging me to think about the course material in ways that pushed me to develop my own perspectives," end quote. That is precisely what great professors do. Professor Dixon is also a superb scholar. He's one of the world's leading experts on one of the world's most important countries, China. Over the course of his career, his scholarship has been at the cutting edge of his field. He's written 3 books, co-edited 4 others, and published numerous articles in leading peer-reviewed journals. His latest book, Wealth into Power, The Communist Party's Embrace of China's Private Sector, was published by Cambridge University Press. In 2006, Professor Dixon received a prestigious fellowship to spend a year at the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars. His current project is supported by a major grant from the National Science Foundation. The Wilson Fellowship and the NSF Award are important signs of national recognition for Professor Dixon and his scholarship. To deliver the charge to our students this afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, Professor Bruce Dixon.
It's almost over. Not just the ceremony for today, but your time here at GW. So you've turned in all your term papers, finished all your exams. It feels good, doesn't it? Doesn't it? Well, don't kid yourselves. The real test of what you learned is just about to start. Some of you are going to go on for another degree, as scary as that may seem right now. Some of you are begin looking for jobs. Some are fortunate enough to have jobs lined up for you. But regardless of what your next step will be, the people that you're going to encounter are going to expect that you will have learned things and be able to apply those things in a new situation. And that's going to be important for 2 reasons. One, the more you can apply what you've learned here, the more able you will be to achieve your goals. But also, the more that you're able to show what you've learned and that it's what they expect that you've learned, the better it makes us look. So along the way, we've expected you to learn a variety of theoretical issues that kind of help you do those things. And understanding how to apply these different theories, understand them, the nuances that go with them, the novelty of different situations is all a part of what it means to be a good scholar of international affairs and a good analyst of international affairs. You've learned along the way that those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it, but you've also learned that applying the wrong cases to a new situation leads you to draw the wrong lessons from them. You've learned about things like modernization theory, the idea that the more prosperous a country is, the more likely it is to be democratic. But We've also learned that simply promoting economic growth as a policy goal isn't a guarantee of achieving a stable democracy in the long run. You've learned about the democratic peace, the idea that democracies don't fight each other, but we don't always know why. Maybe because of norms of peaceful resolution, it may be because of institutional arrangements, but understanding how to apply these broad theories to new situations will be the test of what you'll be able to achieve down the road. In addition to those broad, sort of sometimes vague and expansive theoretical issues, you've also learned some very practical skills. You've learned how to work under pressure and tight deadlines. Some of you have learned how to research and write a term paper in less than 72 hours, which is very impressive. And some of you have learned that the grade you get is equal to the work that you put into it, too. Another important lesson. You've learned how to be self-reliant. Those of you who have had professors that ban laptops from the classroom have had the opportunity to learn how to take notes by hand. A very important skill, and you're welcome for that. And after having spent the better part of a week reading blue books, I can honestly say that legible handwriting is a skill that not enough of you have learned while you're here. But never mind about all that now. Later, you'll go out to make yourselves look good to new people. You make us look good by your achievements. And now it's simply time to celebrate the achievement of your graduation. So on behalf of your professors and the staff here at the Elliott School and at GW more broadly, let me simply say congratulations and good luck.
Thank you, Professor Dixon. Now please join James Simpson in singing the GW Alma Mater.
Hail, Alma Mater, to thy spirit guiding, knowledge thy closest friend, in its strength abiding. Pledge we fidelity, ne'er its place resigning. Hail thee, George Washington.
Thank you. Thank you, James. Please be seated. We're almost done.